Yo, how's it going? It's Market Scraper. So some interesting things happened in the market. Palantir stock gapped up exactly like we expected. And what's going to happen next with Palantir stock? Tesla stock almost hit the resistance level that we thought before dropping to the downside based on some more FUD going on in the media. And then the broader market is at an absolute tipping point. Where do we think this is going to go? Well, let's get into this now. But before we get into this video, if you get any value from this content, don't forget to put a smash down on the like button. It really helps this content, helps other people see this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so Palantir stock right here. We talked about this stock in our last update, which was right over here. And we said that we expect price to gap above this line tomorrow, which is exactly what we did. We opened above this and we even closed above this. We even said intraday we'd expect price to fill the gap that it made from the high here, and we filled that gap intraday. We didn't know that we're going to have this negative news about the capital gains tax, but this is what happened, and we ended up filling this gap here. So this wasn't surprising, and we went above this and closed above this line. So overall, this is pretty bullish, and we just want to see us stay above this, and especially close above this on a weekly close, because I don't think we were able to do that last time. So basically, on Friday, we gapped down below here. We weren't able to have a weekly close above this line. I mean, barely, we had only a single close above this line, really. So we didn't have that weekly close to confirm the breakout. So we almost have one more day. Can we have a weekly close above to confirm our breakout for Palantir stock? So let's take a quick look at Tesla stock here. We can see that we have the high points over here and over here. And this line was a line that was seemingly significant. I talked about this line in yesterday's video and said that this probably would constitute the high point of the day. Basically, you'd find resistance at this line. So interestingly enough, I think the high was around $753.71. And this would be about $760 is what I mentioned for this line. So the interesting thing there is that we were off by maybe $6 shy from hitting this target here. So this line I'm still thinking that would probably act as resistance. So let's pay attention to this line, which happens to be similar to the line that actually in the more short-term time frame, we are kind of in this wedge here. And this wedge basically is a similar line to this line here. Anyway, so whenever we decide to break out of this wedge here, this will tell us when we can go to the upside. And when we break out, maybe we end up going back to 780. That's kind of what I'm thinking where price might go. This is also sparked by FUD, by the news that are kind of still spinning some of Tesla's things, specifically with their full self driving. And so I think that the news will be brushed off eventually. Well, as long as the broader stock market doesn't keep selling off, so we have to be aware of that. And so this is the bullish scenario that I'm seeing here and kind of what I'm expecting. At the same time, we have to be aware of potentially breaking out to the downside or just continuously trading within this channel here and eventually getting to the bottom of our ascending triangle. And the most important thing to be aware of for the short to medium term for Tesla stock is this ascending triangle, in my opinion. This is the most important pattern that is forming at the moment here, and it's earnings or some fundamental change that will either break, either a stock market crash would break it to the downside, or some beats on earnings could potentially break this to the upside. So that's what we're watching for, how we're going to actually end up breaking through this massive triangle that we are trading within at the moment. So that's my thoughts on Tesla stock. Let's take a look at the broader market because there's some pretty important things happening with the broader market here. We talked about a few different things here. Let's quickly take a look at what has happened in the past here. In the past, we talked about that we don't think that we are seeing these scenarios play out currently. We talked about how this is what happened in the past. This is also what happened in the past. We want to acknowledge, though, what's going on right now. We closed right on the line here, essentially. So a close on this line here is exactly what I mentioned in my last video. If we go back down and retest this line, this is when we have to throw some red flags. And the reason for that is because we are not trying to ignore history by any means. Just the setup looks more bullish, and it looked more bullish to me in the moment. But we have to be aware of when we close on this line, that is when we have these gap downs. When we close around this line, that is when we have these big moves to the downside. So we have to be aware of these points in the past. Even though I've been saying that, I think this time is different. I'm bullish on this situation here. And in general, that has been true up until this point. We had that initial bounce exactly as I expected would happen. I mentioned that I thought today would be a sideways day, maybe a little bit of a give back. However, we had the news about the tax and there was a massive sell off. This is perfect for a potential gap down to the downside. This is something we have to be aware of. Basically, no one knows what's going to happen, but we have to look potentially for an open, or at least that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to be looking for an open below here. And what price might we open below? The price that would be the most immediate red flag for me is if we open below the price of $410.59. That is the line in the sand for me. Of if we open below here, that would be an instant reason for being more bearish. If we even go down here intraday, that would be a bearish signal for me as well. Now, if we open above this line, this is when we get more bullish, and we think that we probably are going to continue this trend to the upside. People are going to brush off this news. This is just something that is never going to pass, this tax reform. So there's a few things that this could just be all more FUD, and we're not actually going to, it's unlikely to pass. So we have to be aware of the bearish side of what's going on right now, but also be aware of the bullish side. Be aware that this news could just not be that material, and this was just a buying opportunity as well. One stock that I've been buying today pretty hard was PSTH, Perishing Square, just from the risk to reward, and that's just something I'm happen to be picking up right now, not financial advice. So we have to see where we're going to go, and tomorrow is going to be a very telling day. And if we're going to break down to the downside, tomorrow would be a perfect day to break down to the downside. Now, will that happen? Will we just trade sideways? We want to close somewhere above this. We don't want to close right on the line again, too, because we could break down below on Monday. Now, this news, as long as we are able to stay above this line, it will probably blow over by Monday. People will probably regain their sensibility and realize that this tax increase of this magnitude, there's not enough people to support this and to back this, that it probably won't actually happen. So this sell-off could have been an opportunity if that's what plays out. But we're going to be watching this chart very closely tomorrow, and this has implications on all the stocks that we're watching. Of course, if we end up gapping down to the downside, you bet that most of the stocks that we're watching and in the stock market most likely will go down. Well, I hope you guys got some value from this content. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And keep in mind that none of this is financial advice. This is just some random guy on YouTube drawing some stick figure lines on a chart talking to you guys.